Katie and I have both lived in the city of Chicago for about 12 or 13 years now.
I've lived here for like 14.
14, okay. And we became friends in college, and then we both independently worked on farms.
I was a physics major, and I thought it was pretty. I just didn't really understand like how I was gonna use that ever in any way that would feel good or tangible. So I just started learning like more tangible skills, and I learned how to grow vegetables, and then it was my favorite of the skills I learned. I just loved being outside.
I kind of grew up in and out of farm country, but it was like a totally different type of farming that wasn't interesting to me. I guess I really love food. I sort of grew up with a strong food culture, and with my mom having a garden and things, so it was kind of familiar to me, and I just wanted to learn how to grow food. So I actually moved to Washington State and worked on a farm, and then decided to come back and start a project here because it seemed like there is like more of a need for it here than out there.
When we first got the site, we tested the soil, and it was contaminated with lead. So then we went and we purchased all of this soil. So we laid down a barrier, then we put wood chips on top, then we put soil on top of those wood chips. Like 2 feet of wood chips, then 2 feet of soil. And then we test it every year to see if the contamination is increasing, and it seems to have leveled off at like sort of Chicago's ambient level, which is right around like 70. When we decided we were going to do this, it was really late in the game. I want to say it was January. January before the first season we got in the ground. We got access to this land in April. So like those 3 months were kind of like research, both trying to find sites and also trying to figure out what urban farming is like, because I had never worked on an urban farm at all. She had volunteered at City Farm. So I called around a bunch of people, and I asked them how they build out their site. But I did a lot of research online. When we started this, which was 5 years ago, there were very few models. I mean, now there's slightly more, like Windy City Harvest has an incubator program. There's our farm, there's a few other farms in other cities, although every city is going to be different because soil contamination is pretty unique to cities. I distinctly remember being very scared and confused about how we would start it, and scared about the soil contamination, and doing a lot of research. And at first we tested our soil twice a year, and now we test it every year because it hasn't moved. But the research seems to show that for lead, at least, which is our major problem in Chicago, if you just keep a thick layer of organic material on top of contaminated soil, you're really not going to have any issues. When we first started, the local certifying agency wouldn't certify organic farms. Wouldn't certify urban farms. Now I hear they do, but we haven't followed up with them since then.
We feel like our farm is so accessible to people. Like the people who eat our food would have a really easy time coming here and seeing how we grow the food. They can see that we don't use pesticides or anything like that. So I don't really feel like it's necessary for us to be certified or anything because we're so transparent and we're so accessible and open, and we're so small. Our customers are people who live in Chicago within a couple miles of the farm, and they participate in a CSA program. So they pay up front in the spring for a share of the farm. They make an investment, and then every week they pick up vegetables. And that's probably, I think we have about 30 people who do that from this location, and then we have a smaller CSA program on our south side location that's people who live near that area. So and then we go to 2 farmers markets the Logan Square Farmers Market, and the Andersonville Farmers Market. And that is basically where all of our food goes. If we had more land, we could definitely grow more food and sell out that food. There's a really high demand. Our hope was that other people would start similar farms, because we don't really think getting bigger is necessarily better. I think being connected to your neighborhood is really important, and just kind of, we've been trying to open up the gates a little bit and feed more people in the immediate neighborhood. So we started having a farm stand on Saturdays, and just trying to encourage people from the neighborhood to come in and buy stuff, because I think it would be great if there were more farms like this around the city that people could.
Yeah.
There was a bit of a business plan, but there was no loans built into the business plan. I mean, it was more of your thing. I mean, we definitely had a budget to start out with, and we started out. We had a very modest business plan our first year, and every year it's just gotten slightly more ambitious. Like, I think our thing was to try to calm down our ambitions and our tendency to like go for, try to like get ahead of ourselves, and to just take it really slow every year and just grow a little bit every year, so that we could kind of maintain the farm and not get too, I guess, just, I don't know.
Just make sure that we could handle all of our commitments, especially with the CSA. It really is a commitment. And at the markets too, I mean, to sign up for a market, you're paying them money, they're expecting you to show up. You
get a reputation.
Have to make sure you have a table full of food.
Yeah, if people come and they see your table doesn't look full, your stuff doesn't look good, then they won't come back ever. Sometimes, so you kind of have to, like, we started out doing markets that were lower traffic, like lower pressure markets, I think, like, and then we sort of worked up to doing like the Logan Square market, instead of being like, yeah, we're gonna do Logan Square because it's such a huge market. There's a lot of, the standards are really high there. Everybody's produce looks really good, and so we kind of were like, okay, we're gonna make sure that we're like up to par before we get into that market.
Yeah.
So that's kind of our mentality.
We didn't launch our CSA the first year until July. We didn't take any shares the first year. We shared a table with somebody else at a farmer's market, and then like June we started contacting people, and I think it started in July. Our CSA waiting list is now probably 3 times as large as our CSA. So, yeah.
But also we work over
we couldn't
40
grow
hours
a
week. We can't grow. I think that we're sort of maxing out on our like time, labor, and space. 2 of us are full-time like employees. We have 1 part-time employee, and then we have harvest interns, like people who do work shares. They basically just work for vegetables.